Hi, it's Yumi Steins from the Ladies We Need to Talk podcast. If you've never heard it before, let me explain it to you. Ladies We Need to Talk is a must listen that goes deep on the stuff that really matters to women. If it's a topic going off in your group chat, we're across it with love, science and real-life women telling their stories, from perimenopause to the mental load, fertility to friendship. Find Ladies We Need to Talk in the ABC Listen app.
ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
The lies from her own mouth. I'm ABC investigative reporter Rachael Brown.
And I'm Stephen Stockwell. Welcome to Mushroom Case Daily.
Just a week after 4 people sat down for a family lunch in rural Victoria, 3 of them were dead.
Homicide detectives are still piecing together what exactly happened at the lunch.
It's certainly looking like the symptoms are consistent with death cap mushrooms.
Erin Patterson said she bought the dried mushrooms at a supermarket and an Asian grocery store months earlier.
I cannot think of another investigation that has generated this level of media and public interest.
We have been back in court today, Rach, for the trial of Erin Patterson, and a lot has happened. I mean, we've had the lifting of a suppression order, we've had the details and the next stages of the sentencing, and the release of Erin Patterson's police interview.
Yeah, the ripples from this mushroom lunch continue to flow, Stocky.
Yeah, I want to start by talking through this video. Now, this is an interview that was done with Erin Patterson exactly a week after the lunch. This is right after police have gone through and searched her home in Leongatha.
That's right, and you've heard about this in the podcast. This is where she tells some of the lies that the prosecution played quite heavily on, things like telling police she doesn't have a dehydrator, that she's never foraged for mushrooms. And this is also the same day she gives them a dummy phone, phone B, and says, yep, that's my phone. Now, Erin Patterson did admit at trial that she lied. She said it was because she panicked and feared being wrongly accused of committing the charged offences. But the prosecution said the only reason for these lies was that she believed she was guilty of the charged offences.
The interview that we're actually going to play you some audio of now was what we discussed on Tuesday the 27th of May when it was played to the court. I'll link to the episode in the show notes so you can kind of hear how it was presented and the context it was presented in. But instead of describing that for you now, you can hear Erin's voice as she talks to the lead investigator on this case, Stephen Eppenstall.
Could you please state your full name for me?
Erin Patterson.
All right. Erin, I intend to interview you today in relation to the death of 2 people, being Gail Patterson and Heather Wilkinson.
This police interview went for about 50 minutes, so just under an hour. But what was played to the court was excerpts of about 20 minutes. And we're going to play you some today, and these are the key moments where the prosecution said that she lied. So one of the big lies that you might remember is about foraging. Was she a forager? Was it something that was common that she did in the past? And she was asked this by Stephen Eppenstall.
Obviously, we've got concerns in relation to the mushrooms and where they've come from. Is that something you've done in the past, foraging for mushrooms or anything like that? Never?
No.
Right. Do you preserve food or anything like that?
No.
Have you ever dehydrated food or anything like that?
And Rach, we spoke about this when we produced the series, looking back at all of the events around Erin Patterson's fatal mushroom lunch. The poker face of Stephen Eppenstall, how he's sitting there listening to her deny ever owning a dehydrator, despite having the dehydrator that she has dumped at the tip a few days prior to this. You know, they've just searched her house. They found the instruction manual for this appliance. Like, they know she's got this.
That's right. And Stephen Eppenstall comes back to this in the interview and asks her about the manuals that they've found in her drawer.
If, and like I said, we'll give you a link at the copy of this, everything we received. Kitchen far left bottom drawer, the instruction manual for a sunbeam, food lab, electronic dehydrator. What's that in relation to? Do you know anything about a dehydrator in your house? Or?
Okay.
Do you own a dehydrator?
No. I've got manuals of lots of stuff I've collected over the years. I've had all sorts of appliances and I just keep them all in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When did you find a dehydrator?
No, I don't know, I've had one years ago.
Seeing the crafts, and I mean hearing the craft of how they go about these interviews is so interesting as well. And, you know, we go from, in this instance, her talking about, you know, I guess kind of like starting to walk back from, oh no, I've got lots of manuals, to then talking about, you know, how helpful she's been.
I find police interviews fascinating for the strategy, and any interview I see is kind of a dance, and you've got to pick your moves and you've got to pick the right times. And so it has to be very cleverly done. And as you say, it moved on to the health department. Erin Patterson was said by the end to have sent the health department on a wild goose chase looking for an Asian grocer that sold dry mushrooms that perhaps she never even visited. So she was asked about her dealings with the health department at that time.
I've been very, very helpful with the health department through the week because I wanted to help that side of things as much as possible because I do want to know what happened. So I've given them as much information as they've asked for and offered up all the food and all the information about where the food came from.
Yeah, the Asian grocer story, I mean, we could have done 2 episodes on the Asian grocers. If there's any of this that you're kind of looking for more context around, jump into the series we've just produced. I'll link in the episode description to kind of flesh this out. But yeah, the way that Erin Patterson, you know, kind of led authorities on this sort of, you know, basically wild mushroom chase through the various suburbs of Melbourne was quite incredible. And then, you know, we hear this spoken about in the chat, and then it moves from, you know, I guess kind of, you know, in inverted commas, being helpful to the relationship that she had with the lunch guests.
It's so important because at this point, if they're looking at her as a suspect, they want to know the relationships. And if this was deliberate, what might have sparked this? So Erin Patterson is asked about her relationships with Don and Gail Patterson.
I've got no other family, so they're the only support I've got left, and they've always been really good to me.
Yeah.
And I want to maintain those relationships with them, in spite of what's happened with Simon.
Okay.
I love them a lot. They've always been really good to me. And they always said to me that they would support me with love and emotional support, even though Simon and I were separated. And I've really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because my parents are both gone.
Yeah.
My grandparents are all gone. They're the only family that I've got.
Yeah.
And they're the only grandparents that my children have. And I want them to stay in my kids' life.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me. And I think Simon hated that I still had a relationship with his parents. But I love them. Nothing that's ever happened between us, nothing he's ever done to me will change the fact that they're good, decent people that have never done anything wrong by me ever.
We're only playing you short sections of this, but these are the real key moments. These are the lies that Erin Patterson told. You know, in this instance, you can hear her telling these lies to the police and then going on and explaining some of her behaviour and, you know, giving the police really important context to, you know, the relationship that she says she had with the lunch guests. You'll be able to watch longer versions of this video on the ABC News website, but I mean, Rach, why have we got access to this now? I mean, this is something we asked for at the end of the trial. You know, we saw a lot of exhibits released at the end of the trial. We thought this was going to be one of them, but it wasn't. Why did we have to wait until today?
This was one of the exhibits that Justice Beale wanted to have a little bit of a mull over. And he has to think about things like, will the victims or the victims' families oppose such a release? Is that going to cause them more trauma? Are there any graphic or gratuitous details on this tape? So he has to think about things like this. He said today that the family doesn't oppose the release. There's no graphic details. The children's names and other details will be redacted to protect them. So he decided, look, there's strong public interest in this case, and in the interest of fair and accurate reporting, rather than the public having to depend on interpretations by journalists and commentators, that they can hear it and see it for themselves and decide on content and demeanour.
Yeah. No, look, very understandable. I mean, it's hard not to take that personally. I think the descriptions that we gave of Erin Patterson's interview on Mushroom Case Daily were quite good. Rachel, it has been a big day in court. I mean, a relatively short court hearing this morning. It was, I think, less than an hour maybe. But went through so much. The lifting of a suppression order that had stopped us reporting a lot of details around previous alleged poisonings. All of that is in another episode we published today. So jump in and have a look if you want some of that. But Rach, in the hearing today, we also got some dates and details around the next stages of the sentencing process for Erin Patterson.
That's right. The next stage is what's called a pre-sentence hearing. Mm-hmm. So it's when the defence raises mitigating factors to help lessen her sentence. The prosecution will raise aggravating ones to try to increase it.
Right.
So the prosecution also flagged that there will be a number of victim impact statements. And they wouldn't say how many, but they said there's quite a number. And that's why this is going to take, this pre-sentence hearing, a couple of days. Mm-hmm. So it's been set down for August 25 and 26, so later this month. Okay,
we spoke in an episode on Tuesday about victim impact statements as well, the process of that, how that works. So again, if you're interested in that, it's from Tuesday the 4th of August. So jump back, have a listen if you want to know a little bit more about how the victim impact statement works. Rachel, are we going back to Morwell for this hearing?
No, and sorry to the security guards that might be looking forward to seeing us, or the cafe staff, or maybe they don't want to see us, maybe they're happy we're gone. No, Justice Beale said that there's maintenance going on at the Morwell Court. So the pre-sentence hearing will be at the Melbourne Supreme Court.
Okay, just down the road from where we're at the ABC. And this, this pre-sentence hearing, I mean, I'm assuming that's not the whole thing. This is like a precursor to the actual sentencing of Erin Patterson?
That's right, and we should hear at that pre-sentence hearing a date for the sentence. Mm-hmm. Usually they're a couple of months after. It just depends on how complicated the material is that gets submitted, if the defence submits any reports, or this is when the psychiatric reports can be submitted if the defence wishes. Mm-hmm. I've no whispers yet on whether that's happening or not, but Justice Beale will have to consider that. Also, if the sentence, we don't know yet, but if the sentencing is in Morwell, obviously they'd need to check that court diary to see when a room there might be free. So lots of things, but I presume that the sentencing will happen before the end of this year.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Rach. Please keep in touch. Send us your emails if you have questions for us. mushroomcasedaily@abc.net.au is the best way to get in touch with us. As this pod turns into the case of, soon our email will be thecaseof@abc.net.au. I'm assuming there'll be someone in my orbit that can set up a forward of some sort. So, just use whichever one you feel comfortable with. Rach, I do have one quick email that I'd like to get to from Jody. Jody says, morning team, love the podcast and listen to everything. At the start of the trial, were there not more charges? I think attempted murder of Erin Patterson's ex-husband who had gone to hospital multiple times leading up to the dinner, or is this one of the topics you can't discuss?
It was one of the topics we couldn't discuss for a very long time. We couldn't even allude to it because we could only give you what the jury heard. Mm-hmm. They were told at the very start, put it out of your mind, these attempted murder charges that related to Simon Patterson, 3, I believe. And lots more information about those alleged poisonings is in the episode that we dropped earlier today. But we heard about that at pre-trial, Simon Patterson's allegations that Erin tried to poison him with a penne bolognese, a chicken coma curry, and a vegetable wrap.
There's a lot more that is in that episode from this morning. I mean, I will give Jody, a bit of grace here because she did email before we had dropped that episode this morning.
It's a good question. And basically, we never heard about them and couldn't talk about them because those charges were discontinued.
There's those details and so much more in the episode we've dropped this morning. So jump into the feed, have a look at that as well. And I mean, one of the things that is so important in journalism, Rach, is admitting when you have made a mistake. I do have a correction for an episode we produced on Tuesday. I said it was Harrison Ford, I thought, who was in Double Jeopardy, a film that I watched 30 years ago. Turns out my memory, when you stretch it back 30 years, not great. Turns out it was Tommy Lee Jones in that film.
You would have been what, 5?
I barely even born.
But in your defence, Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford were in The Fugitive. So you might have been thinking about that. Also an excellent film.
I was definitely thinking about Double Jeopardy, but I appreciate you're trying to help me out there, Rach. We will keep you in the loop with everything that's going on around the trial of Erin Patterson and soon other high-profile cases in Australia. Next week, we will start our coverage of the trial of Matt Wright. This podcast will transition to being called The Case Of, so make sure you find yourself in the ABC Listen app, searching for Mushroom Case Daily until Monday, and then The Case Of after that. You'll find us, you'll follow us, and if you're not in the sweet embrace of the ABC Listen app, whatever app you find yourself embracing, if it lets you rate and review this podcast, please do us a favour. It is so much easier for other people to find us when you make those reviews.
Mushroom Case Daily is produced by ABC Audio Studios and ABC News. It's presented by me, Rachael Brown, and producer Stephen Stockwell.
Our executive producer is Claire Rawlinson, and a big thank you to our true crime colleagues who keep helping us out, our commissioning executive producer Tim Roxburgh and supervising producer Yasmin Parry. This episode was produced on the land of the Wurundjeri people.
Have you ever seen a news story and thought, what's the science behind that?
I remember thinking, gee, Lancet, how did you publish this? You know, it's not great.
Well, chances are I have too.
Obviously, everybody poops, and depending on what depth it gets to, it could be sequestered away from the atmosphere for decades to millennia.
Hi, I'm Belinda Smith, the host of Lab Notes, where every week we bring you the science behind new discoveries and current events. Find it by searching for Lab Notes on the ABC Listen app.